And my last rod, just as I was walking to the platform to pick it up and wind it in, it's gone. And I think we've got the biggest fish of the session.
I was recently invited to fish a stunning little lake hidden from view by the surrounding trees, and with 40 special hand-picked carp to go at in 4 acres, I was excited by the challenge the next 2 days would bring. On arrival, I set off in search of fish, as location was going to be of utmost importance to succeeding on this relatively low-stocked water.
Welcome to another video. As you see behind me here, there's a beautiful bit of water in the woods in a forest, and that is Pan's Lake, owned by Chris Curry. He's very kindly invited me down to do a bit of filming down here, and it's a stunning little bit of water, about 4 acres. It's quite lightly stocked, about 40 fish, so about 10 fish per acre, so it's a bit of a challenge. But I've just done a bit of a lap of the lake, and I'm actually stood in the car park swim. You might see my car behind me there. And I saw a couple of fish on the surface down this way in the corner, just cruising, minding their own business. But then off that way, down to the right of this swim here, there's a couple of really nice margin spots. And when I was looking through the bushes, I actually saw a couple of fish just sat in under the trees there. So it's a really good starting point for this session. I've got 48 hours to go at. Probably going to have a go at some stalking and stuff tomorrow, but for tonight it's sort of mid-afternoon now. Just going to get everything set up in this swim, so I've got a bit of a base camp, and I'm going to fish to those margin spots for the night and hope that those fish are hungry that are there. I'll probably walk round and just put a bit of bait over there just to maybe sort of spook them off a bit with the bait, sneak the rods in over there, and then hopefully the fish will come back in and have a bit of a feed, and we might catch one if we're lucky. I think the fish go up to upper 30s in here. There's a big common which supposedly could be around £40 now, which would be an absolute dream to catch on this short session. But anything will be a bonus because, like I say, it's not a very heavily stocked lake. So just going to get the gear out now, get everything set up, and then I'll chat to you a little bit later about my tactics and talk a bit more about the spots that I'm fishing once everything's sorted. So I'll crack on and I'll catch up to you in a bit. Right, so here I am, all set up in my swim. I believe it's swim 1, this swim, but you could call it the car park swim. We've got, you know, nice car parking access behind. I've got my bivvy all set up there nicely, and then the rods are out there on the platform, as you can hopefully see behind me. So yeah, as I say, I've got 3 rods out. I'll talk you through the spots and the tactics and everything tomorrow. But for tonight, I've just gone in with minimal baiting tactics, just trying to nick a bite where I've seen the fish, really. I did see a couple of fish feeding in the margin spots down on that end margin there, so I'll show you those in a bit more detail tomorrow as well. But yeah, I've seen fish feeding, and I've got my baits out nicely in those areas with a little bit of bait over the top. So yeah, talk to you a bit more detail about that tomorrow, but it's exciting. Everything's sorted now, and I can sit and chill for the afternoon, and hopefully something will happen before it gets dark. So yeah, that's all I can do for now, guys. I'll keep you posted if anything happens, and if not, I'll be talking you through all the tactics and everything tomorrow. Right guys, it is about 5 to 2 in the morning and we're off the mark, so I'm absolutely buzzing with that. First night on a new water, found the fish earlier and fished to them, and we've had a result. To be honest, I thought I would have had a fish a bit sooner, but it's taken a little while, and actually it was on the spot that I was least expecting a bite on, so you know, I'm still confident in the other spots for the morning. But yeah, I'll show you this one. Not the biggest fish in the lake, but it's a lovely old looking common, around about mid-double. It's probably spawned out, so it might have been, you know, like an upper double at one point. But yeah, nice to be off the mark on the first night, and yeah, let's hope it's one of many to come. Right, good morning guys. Nothing's happened unfortunately since that fish in the night, but I am really happy to be off the mark. You know, fishing in new water, you never really know how to approach it, and it's nice when you get one early on, so it gives you something to build on and hopefully catch a few more fish in the same way. But I am surprised really that nothing's happened on my margin rods where I'm fishing down to the right there. I'll talk you through the tactics and spots and everything when I wind in and refresh the rods later. But yeah, I found the fish when I got here quite easily. They were sort of sat in amongst the trees down on the end margin. So I sort of stealthily got the rods in down there and put a bit of bait on it. And when I went and checked the spots, the fish was still there. So I kind of figured that it was pretty much game on for a bite. But the rod that went was actually in open water on a bit of a bar that I'd seen. It's quite obvious, you can see it from the margin, like this sort of glowing gravelly area. And I just cast a pop up onto that and put a scatter of boilies over it. Didn't see any fish there, but that was the rod that went. So yeah, surprising really. Sometimes things don't quite go the way you expect them to, and those margin rods have stayed quiet. So yeah, I'm thinking about redoing the rods in a bit. I'm just going to leave them out till sort of just before lunchtime, you know, get that early morning bite period out of the way and have a check and a, you know, reset of those rods, and make sure they're all sitting pretty for the afternoon when the fish were sort of in there yesterday. I did see a fish show a bit further out into the pond this morning, so I've chucked a single out there for now because you know, all the rods are quiet, so I thought I might as well chuck one where I've seen a fish. So I just put a single yellow pop-up out there where I saw that one, just hopefully to try and you know, nick a bite really. But yeah, it's all quiet out there at the moment and there's not a lot showing apart from that one that I saw earlier on. So I'm going to have to just keep watching the water and yeah, making changes as I see fit if anything happens, you know, any shows or anything like that. But for now I'm sort of sticking to the game plan of that end margin because fish were in there sort of most of yesterday afternoon. So they've got to come back again at some point, and hopefully I'll nick one in the daytime, and it'll be nice to get some photos and a bit of footage of a fish in the daylight as well. So yeah, we'll have to keep watching and seeing what happens. And like I said, I'll talk you through my rigs and everything a little bit later when I wind in. Right, so I've just wound in my rods to have a bit of a reset and a rethink. And the rod that was on the sort of banker spot down on the end margin there, when I wound in, there was solid resistance, and I was dragging something along the bottom, and I managed to pull out a big massive branch, and the rig was tangled up in that. So although I felt a decent drop when it went down, it must have like hit that, and when I wound in, it's sort of gone around it, and that could explain why I didn't get any bites on that rod. So I'm glad I wound it in and checked it, and now that I've pulled that branch out, it's hopefully a lot clearer on the spot. And actually, one just showed about a minute after I wound it in, so I don't know whether it's sort of disturbing the water, dragging that branch has kind of churned the bottom up, and it's got the fish kind of excited in that area. So I'm going to get the rod back out in a second, but I thought I'd just take you through my rigs before I do that. And the rig that I'm using is very similar to a normal withy pool rig, apart from the shrink tube section is just quite short there, so it's quite nice and low, this pop-up rig. But I've got a curved shank hook on there, and the shrink tube's kind of curved, so it still sort of gets that same effect as a withy pool rig, but it's just that little bit lower, and I can move the shot even closer to the shrink tube if I want and fish it really, really short, really, really low. But at the moment I've got it probably sort of 2 inches off the bottom, so you know, not blatant really, but hopefully just presents better over, you know, whatever it lands on. And then my margin rod, which is on a nice hard gravelly spot that I can see from the bank, it's on this little rig here, which is it's just a D rig tied out of strippable coated braid. So I've just sort of tied a knotless knot and then passed the tag end back through the eye and blobbed it with a bit of silicone on the shank just to hold it a bit further down the shank there. And then I've put a bit of shrink tube on the eye as well, just to kind of give it a little bit of a kicker effect. And that, whichever way it gets picked up, the hook always drops down, so you know it's always in that prone position, and then you've got a nice blob of putty there which helps drop the hook down into the bottom of the fish's mouth as well. The hook bait is a Vitamino prepped bottom bait tipped with half an amino ester white pop-up just for a little bit of buoyancy, so it sort of sits like a snowman, you know, just on the bottom but upright like that, and then when the fish picks it up, it sort of flies back in the mouth and the hook sort of drops down, and then hopefully when the fish blows it out, the bait sort of drops to the eye of the hook and makes the point pull down into the bottom of the fish's mouth. And I've only been using this rig for 2 or 3 sessions now, but caught 3 fish on it on my last session, and you know, I've got confidence in it because the mechanics make sense to me. You know, I've kind of played around with rigs for a long time, and I know this is going to work. It's nice and quick and easy to tie, and it never tangles. I used to always use a normal kind of hair rig blowback, but I found the hair would sometimes tangle around the hook, especially if there's small fish in the lake playing around with your hook bait. You know, it can wrap around the hook and lose its effectiveness. But with this, it always resets itself and never tangles on the cast either, so it's kind of like a bit of a bomb-proof rig, to be honest. And you know, the putty on there just helps it lay flat and kick down away from the lead when you're sort of feeling the lead down. So that's my 2 rigs, guys, and the sort of thinking behind why I've chosen to fish them on the spots that I'm fishing. So yeah, all that's left now is for the carp to play ball and start feeding, and hopefully we'll get a couple more before we have to go tomorrow. Right, so these are the boilies that I'm using on this session. It's Pure Bait Concepts Vitamino, but you'll see they've got a bit of a powdery crust on the outside. So what I've done is I've added some of the pure marine extract liquid to it and some salmon oil, and a little bit of the Vitamino liquid food. That just glazes the outside of the boilies, and then I've added some of the Vitamino prep powder to the outside of that, and it kind of sticks to the liquids, gives you this nice crust of attraction, and the oil that I put in there will just be like popping out up to the surface, and those liquids will be oozing along the bottom, so extra attraction. So you don't need to use a lot of bait. I'm only putting out 10 or 15 or so of these, and it leaves a bit of smell in the area. Even if the bait all gets eaten, still attraction and smell on the bottom and in the silt and stuff, so it just keeps your swim kind of active for longer, really. And this is what I caught my fish on last night, and I'm sure that I've been feeding on this on my end margin spot, but I think my rig was out of play because of that branch last night. So I'm going to get these back out in the pond now, get my rigs out, and hopefully my presentation will be better now and we'll have a chance of a bite today. Right, so a little update for you guys. It's a little bit after lunchtime now, and as you can probably see behind me there, it's a little bit bright, but got the rods back out again after winding in and having a lap of the lake. I've decided to move my one of my right hand rods that was going down to the end margin there out into open water, because there was 2 or 3 fish that showed there this morning. And there's a bit of a gravel plateau there, and this time of year, kind of end of June, it's warm and the fish are up in the water, I think, and so a plateau like that gives you that shallow water where the fish want to be really at this time of year. And actually Matt, who's fishing down the other end of the lake, has had 2 fish off that sort of area. He's down the other end, so he's fishing the other end of that plateau, but I've got one rod now going over to that plateau. I will talk you through my spots in a minute so you kind of know exactly where I'm fishing, but I thought seeing as that end margin's not produced anything, I might as well move one rod off it and give myself another chance of a bite in open water, because that fish that I caught last night was actually in open water, so might as well have 2 rods where I've caught from, sort of, not exactly where I've caught from, but kind of the area, and then the other rod's down to that sort of spot where I saw all the fish yesterday, and as I said, I got that branch out of there now, so I think that spot's a bit nicer, a bit clearer. Hopefully I'm presented a bit better, so I've got a better chance of a bite. So yeah, everything's reset and looking good, and it's nice and overcast, so not too hot, so hopefully the fish are kind of looking for a bit of food. We've had a lot of hot weather lately, and I think they've probably just been sulking really, just up in the snags and everything, and now that it's kind of cooled off a bit and we've got a bit of cloud cover, hopefully they're hungry and looking for a bit of bait. So yeah, that's the sort of the situation at the moment, guys. I've just been kind of watching the water, and not a lot really is going on at the moment, but it is kind of the middle of the day. I'm not really expecting much to happen right now, but the fish were in them snags down the end margin sort of this time yesterday, so I'm hoping they've moved back in there now, and we've got a good chance of a bite during the sort of afternoon, and then the open water rods might come into their own this evening or overnight tonight. So yeah, fingers crossed that we get another couple of fish before we go tomorrow morning. It's slipping away fast this session. I thought it would be a little bit easier because I'd found the fish, and the lake's not overly pressured at the moment because it's fairly new. I thought it would be a bit easier to catch on this session, but so far it's been hard work, and I've just got the 1 fish to show for my efforts. So yeah, hopefully that little change of tactics and a little reset of everything might bring me a couple more bites. So we'll have to wait and see, guys. And in a minute I'll talk you through the spots that I'm fishing. You might see out there just beyond this tree, just about here, there's an area of sort of glowing gravel there. Don't know how well you can see that, but there's a bit of a raised bar there, and when I got here yesterday I saw a fish cruise over the top of that. So that was my left hand rod, and that was actually the one that produced the fish last night. So I've just gone back out on the same spot and put about 50 baits over the top with a white pop-up, and I'm just leaving that now overnight, hoping that something comes along at some point. And my middle rod is going out over this way, so where are we? In this sort of area here, there's another sort of raised gravel area. I don't know how well you can see that on the camera, but I've got my middle rod just kind of this side of that raised plateau. It's really shallow on top, it's probably only about 2 foot, and there's quite a few tufties around. So I've come just this side of it where it drops down a bit deeper, but it's still nice and firm. And I went round to the far side. You can get into this gap over here. So I stood in there and just fired out about 100 baits just over that gravel. Then I've just fired another pop-up over there in amongst that bait. So I'm hoping that the fish will kind of get over that area tonight, or it could happen at any time really. The fish are quite nomadic, it seems like they're sort of moving around quite a bit. So I'm hoping that at some point in the next 24 hours or so, we're going to have a chance on that rod as well. And then my last one is going down to my right hand end margin. So where you can see the trees are coming around sort of here, and then it goes in there a little bit, and you can actually walk along the track around the lake and get in and sort of look into the margin there. And there was fish in there yesterday, and so I've been walking around and just plopping a few boilies over that spot. And then I've just been fishing my little sort of half a snowman rig, so bottom bait with half a pop-up on the top, just in that area. It's nice and clear gravel from what I can see, although there was a branch that I got snagged up in overnight last night, so it sort of wasted that opportunity. But now that I've got that branch out, I'm hoping that I'm presented well, and if the fish come back into that area, I could get a bite on that rod, particularly in the daytime. I think the margin sort of spots and under trees and overhangs and stuff, it's normally quite good in the daytime. So my prediction is, if I'm lucky, I'll get a bite on that one today, and then perhaps the 2 open water rods might produce something tonight. So yeah, that's my 3 spots that I'm fishing. I was fishing another rod down into this corner. Where are we? Sort of in there. There's another little spot that you can walk to around the lake, and you can have a look into the margin there, and it's a nice clear gravelly looking spot. I did see a couple of fish go over it yesterday, but I've not seen anything since then, and it's not that far away from the other spot. And I was a bit worried about my lines kind of crossing over if I caught a fish and stuff, so I've just got the 1 rod on that margin now, and then the other 2 in open water. So yeah, let's see what the rest of the day brings, and I'll update you at some point this evening. Right guys, I'm absolutely gutted and wounded. I've just lost a fish on my right hand rod, which was going down to the snags there. Although, as you might have heard there, I did just have a beep on the middle rod, so yeah, it's things are kicking off down here. The fish have sort of been tucked away, not really feeding today, and suddenly this evening they seem to be quite active again. So I did lose one, unfortunately. I was trying to bully it away from the snags and the hook just pulled, but at least I got the rig back and everything, didn't leave anything in the water. But I've actually gone back down there now, but I've come a little bit further off the snags, and I've put a bank stick next to my rods as well, just to make sure that everything's solid on the setup, because when I got that take, it started, tipping over the setup, and although it is kind of fixed to the platform, I didn't have any screws with me, so I've just used a tent peg and kind of wedged it between the boards there. And I'm a bit worried that could pull out if I got a savage take again. So I've just put a bank stick next to the rods there, So there's absolutely no way that can move, and the only sort of movement will be the tip of the rod, which will, you know, hold the fish back with the sort of springy action of it, if you like. So yeah, I think I'm a bit more confident that I would land one now if I had a take, and perhaps I should have been a bit more careful on that last fish. You know, I did have it on and I was playing it, but it just went along that margin. I couldn't get it out. It just kept going along, and then kind of started getting towards the snag, so I had to sort of bully it, and the hook just pulled out, which, you know, is one of them things when you're snag fishing, but at least I didn't leave any tackle in the water. So yeah, it's looking promising for this evening and tonight, so I'll keep you posted, guys. And yeah, obviously any fish that come along I'll show you. Hopefully we can sort of salvage the session with a couple more, because that one little common wasn't really enough for what I was hoping on this session. But then, you know, there is only 40 fish in here. It's not crazy heavily stocked, but they're really nice, sort of, most of them really nice scaly ones. I've seen a couple of linears swimming around today while I've been looking. I'd love to catch one of them. So yeah, fingers crossed for tonight, and we'll see what comes along. Well, good morning, guys. And it's been a wet one last night. I think it was around about 3 in the morning it started raining, which woke me up, and it hasn't stopped since then. So I've just been kind of sat in my bivvy, but I did get up about 6 and redo all the rods just to make sure everything was sitting nice for that bite time, because I'd had a few beeps and stuff in the night and I was sort of a bit unsure whether things were still presenting well. So I'm glad I did that, reset everything, and we've got one in the net, so I'm absolutely buzzing about that. It's been quite tricky on this session. You know, I lost that fish, and you know, the open water rods haven't produced like I thought they might do. Matt down the other end's had 3 or 4 fish now on the open water rods, but for some reason mine just aren't producing. But I've managed to nick one on my margin spot, nice common, so just waiting for the rain to stop. I don't know if you can see outside, but it's raining a little bit at the moment, so I'm just going to wait for the rain to stop, and then I'll get it out and show you guys. I've got the rod back out already, so we've got a chance for another one. We are going to have to start packing up in an hour or so, but yeah, I'm so happy to have had another fish, and there's plenty of time for more as well. Right, here we go. This fish is an absolute stunner. Look at that. Nice and grey and old looking. I don't think this will be one of the stockies they put in. I think this must be one of the older fish in the lake. About 17.5 pounds, so not massive, but absolutely gorgeous looking. And I'm really happy to get that one, because, you know, I've struggled a little bit and I was a bit unlucky losing one. So yeah, it's nice to get one towards the end of the session to kind of make up for all the hard work that I put in trying to catch them. Right, I can't believe this, guys. Literally one rod left on the pod. I've just wound in the other 2. As you might see there, I've just got my bivvy left to put away pretty much, and everything else is in the car behind it there. And my last rod, just as I was walking to the platform to pick it up and wind it in, it's gone. And I think we've got the biggest fish of the session. Couldn't write it, you know, been hard work, and then the last morning I've had 2 just to make up for it, so I'm really buzzing now. Looking forward to getting this fish out and showing you, and then getting on the road. So yeah, stay tuned. We'll get the fish out, give it a weigh, let you know what it weighs. I think it might scrape 20 pound if I'm lucky. So yeah, that'll be a nice sort of end to the session. So let's get it out, have a look. Right, here we are. I'm absolutely over the moon, as you can probably tell. It's the biggest fish of this session. Sorry, I can't even speak properly. It's the biggest fish of the session, and it's £20.12. So not massive, not the biggest fish in the lake, but it's nice to get one over £20 when, you know, I've only caught a couple of doubles so far. So it's a really good end to the session. Absolutely stunning looking fish. I'm sure you'll agree. Let's get him up to show you. And there we go. Look at that. Nice angry common who's put in his dorsal up a second ago. Well happy with that. What a way to finish. I literally was just about to wind that rod in. I saw the rod tip knocking before the alarm even made a sound, and then just one beat, but I was on it. and you know, it tried to make it for the snags, but I managed to pull it out. And yeah, once it was in open water, I had no other rods to worry about, so I could just take my time playing it. And that's the end result. A nice 20 pound 12 common from Pans Lake. So that really is the end of the video now, guys. If you've enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and comment below, subscribe to the channel, and go check out Pans Lake on Swimbooker as well.